I love the idea of really working hard on a story, trying to figure out what's going on and trying to unlock it. But also, really good mysteries tell a lot about the real world in very kind of low-key, unassuming ways. As someone starts to unravel things about mystery, there's sometimes very ugly truths about the world that the person uncovers as well. And that's really what draws me to it, I think.
When I was reading your book, I noticed how descriptive it is on the characters and the setting, and I was wondering, how long does it take you to write a book so descriptive?
Yeah.
A long time. The Parker Inheritance was supposed to come out a year and a half ago.
Oh.
Oh,
wow.
that's right. Yeah. Wow. But sometimes it takes a little while. And as my editor and I were working on the book, she said, really, this is an important book for you. This is an important book for, we hope, others. So let's slow down and let's take our time with it. Really to get all the detail right, to get the mystery right. There's multiple narratives going on through the story as well too. So yeah, this one took a good bit of time. I first got the idea 8 years ago for it, and then kind of tinkered with it. Even then, when I decided to write the novel, it was supposed to be a year and a half ago. But hey, it's not now, which I'm happy about.
Yay. Well, what made you write a book for kids? What made you write a book for kids that expands on the topic on racism, and is it inspired by current events, maybe past ones?
Yes to all the above. First, I love writing books for young people, because here's the thing, guys, right? Adults have kind of messed things up a little bit, and we need you guys to save the world. And so my job is to try to write things to make you think. Hopefully make you laugh, to entertain you. But at the end of the day, I want you to think about yourselves in the world and what impact you want to have on the world. And I think the best way to do that is writing for young people. Is it inspired by current events? Sure, it sure is. But it was inspired by the past too. Growing up with my brother in the South, just things that happened to us that all led to writing the book.
Wow.
So you really touched my last question that I was about to do. It said you're aiming kids as a group because you feel like you can explain it more and that it's giving kids a new age or showing them new stuff or even exposing new things.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, but you guys are smart. You see the world. You see how it is. You know everything happening in the world. I want to give some context to that. But really, very often people will ask me, well, what's the theme for my book? Well, what do I want readers to get from the book? And I really struggle with answering that because it's not my place to say that. I think every reader has their own background, their own ideals that they bring to reading a book. And as they read it, they start to explore different things and start to question different things. My job is to create space for readers to ask questions, to ponder, to wonder, to think about something that's happening in the book and how it affects the real world. If I'm doing that, then I'm doing my job.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Johnson, what is the theme of the book? I thought the theme was be who you are. What do you think the theme is?
I think if you think that's the theme, then that's the theme. I think it's hard for me to say the theme and let me tell you why. Because in some ways it doesn't matter what I think the theme is, right? So it's a very interesting way to think about it when I write books. And here's what I do. I write a book and I have an idea of what I want it to be about when I write the first draft. And it's all about me and what I want in the book. And then as I revise it, I start to strip some of that stuff away to try to think about the universal reader, what I want other readers to get out of it. This book went through 13 revisions.
Wow.
Yeah, most revisions I've ever done on the book. And at the end of the day, it kind of doesn't matter what I think. I think sometimes readers will read this and think about being yourself and being comfortable in your own skin. I think some readers will read this and think about injustices in the world and how he or she can make differences to right some of these wrongs. Some of it is about learning about your past, learning about history so you don't forget it. I'll say for me, a lot of it was about that last thing. The book is based in a made-up town called Lambert, South Carolina, which is based on my own hometown in South Carolina. Yeah.
Wow.
And I did a lot of research, talking to people who had lived in the 40s and 50s, who had graduated, you know, in 1956, 1957, 1958 from high school. But even then, I couldn't talk to everyone. I have some very dear family members, aunts and uncles, who passed away before I had the chance to interview them. And their history is lost in some type of way. You know, we've got to go back and talk to elders and understand the past so we don't repeat some of those mistakes in the future, I think.
Yes.
Whenever I read the book, whenever I read the book, some of the emotions that I get sad and happy, like some of the things that happened in the past I don't think should have happened, and they aren't really great things, but I was wondering, what do you think the readers should feel whenever they read the book? What emotions are you targeting them to have?
Oh gosh, that's a hard question. I want, because again, it's the same type of way with theme. I want the reader to feel whatever they feel. But there are some times that things were not so great in the 1950s. Things aren't so great today too. And I think it's okay to feel sad about that, to understand it, to recognize it, and to figure out what we're going to do about it. You know, it's interesting, you know, for someone growing up in 1957, being 16, 17, 18 years old, life was much, much better for them than their parents, you know, in the 1920s and 30s. And even now, you know, my daughters, have two daughters, 6 years old and 3 years old. And life for them is going to be much better because we are in a better place than was for me when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And that's part of it, just trying to make sure every generation is better, does better, has better access to education, and has a better chance to be successful. But sometimes that means reliving things that happened in the past and reevaluating things that happen now and seeing that things aren't great. And sometimes it does make us sad, but it also hopefully makes us think as well.
Yes.
I feel that the book is really, it shows real emotion, like she said, but the book spoke to me as in showing that life is not perfect, but determined on how you make it.
Yeah.
So, but that's my opinion. So, how's the book make you feel?
Oh, Alex, that's a hard question. How does the book make me feel? I'm proud of the book. I'm proud of the time it took to write the book. And I'm really happy when I hear back from readers who get something out of the book. There are parts of the book that still make me very sad when I read them, even now after reading it and revising it so many times, wishing that things were different. As I write the book and read it, I see my own children in the book. And I can see my daughters being older, being like Candace, or being like Brandon, and being inquisitive and wanting to solve mysteries, but also dealing with these real world issues that in some ways are unfair, but still they have to deal with. As a parent, I find myself thinking a lot about the need to protect my children versus the need to get them out in the world to experience the world so they're not shell-shocked when they get into the real world. And those are constantly at battle, you know, wanting to protect them versus wanting to expose them to reality. And I don't know, I guess that's what I think about even now as I think about the book and reread it sometimes.
In your book, it involves a girl and a boy searching for treasure while exploring their town's history, which I find unique from other books I've read. Why did you want Candace and Brandon to search for treasure? Why not something else?
Well, I think it's exciting, the idea of being something buried and something hidden. And I also wanted something that felt unbelievable. You know, I think, you know, there are oftentimes young people have this sense of wonder, this sense of inspiration that's kind of beaten out of us when we're adults. And we, you know, oh, that makes sense. Of course there's no buried treasure, there's no secret treasure here. You know, logically we want to think that, but why not? What if there is? And I think Candace and Brandon have the right mix of smarts and imagination and wonder to pull that off. And I found myself, even as I'm writing the book, not quite knowing what's going to happen, rooting for them to find something, to discover something that adults just can't allow themselves to try to discover. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Makes
does
a lot
make
of
sense. It
sense.
makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
To a what if question.
A what if question, I think. I think you guys have the ability to ask great what if questions. What if this, what if that, to be so imaginative. And I think sometimes adults get into the mindset, well, I can't do this because of whatever reason, or I can't do that. It's always, I can't do it versus I can, I should, I will, you know, and I love that spirit in young people, especially when given the room to explore and to think and to wonder with all the tools, the smarts, the intelligence, all those things wrapped together, you know.
Yes. In your book, you mentioned the movie The Imitation of Life, and I thought that was really interesting that you added that in a children's book, but why did you do that?
Well, it's a great movie. And in addition, the movie also, I don't know, it touches on the idea of pretending to be someone else, you know, to try to have a better life and better things. And we do that in small ways sometimes. We do it in really, really big ways. You know, I can remember being younger and being at school and pretending to talk a different way or act a different way to try to be cool, to try to hang with a better set of friends, to try to not be bullied. But how much of that do you slowly give up to become someone else? And then once you become someone else, you still lose the authentic you. You lose who you are, and we're beautiful, and we're perfect like we are. So why should we pretend to be something else? And why should we force to pretend to be something else? So I felt that was very similar in Imitation of Life, so I wanted to give homage to that movie and book.
Well, who would you say is your favorite character? In my opinion, I like Siobhan. But who would be your favorite character?
I like Siobhan too. Siobhan, I love Siobhan and Candace. I like the women in the book and the girls. Siobhan, Candace, even Candace's mother were probably my favorites.
In the book, I noticed that one of the old tennis team's coach named Enoch. I was wondering where you got that name from.
Oh, gosh, it's just an old classic name. I wanted some old names that, again, it's a name is important, but a name is only part of it. You know, Enoch Washington, I think is a strong, beautiful name. But also, if I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I would really struggle with a name like that. Even my name, Varian, I really struggled with Varian. I never liked being called Varian until I was much, much older. So yeah, I just wanted that feel of names, the older names.
How would you describe the main character's Candace's personality? Was she based on someone else or just who you thought of?
Makes you look like me, very much bookish, very much a bookworm.
Thanks, Varian Johnson, for coming on to... Thanks, Varian Johnson, the author of Parker Inheritance, for coming on. I'm your host, Maya Hay, and co-host Alex and Alexis, and thanks for listening to Kids' Choice Book Show on KZI 88.7 FM, and thanks, Alex and Alexis, for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.